Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Rose Shuever. I'm a Namibian YouTuber and I'm back with another exciting video. So today I am gonna talk about the cost of living in China. So in March I was like, I'm gonna write down all the expenses that I've ever used, all the expenses that I will do, like I would get this I mean all the expenses that I'll have this month, especially for groceries, transportation. That's for how much? Transportation, groceries, and phone credit, like yeah, charging your phone and stuff like that. And those are the key main expenses that I have, because myself, I'm a student and I live in a hostel, so it's a little bit different if you're maybe living outside. But of course I'm going to talk about even expenses of renting, how much people are actually paying to rent an apartment or so. And honestly, I feel like cost of living in China is not so bad. But what I'm thinking is the temptation of you spending in China, it's 100% plus 50%. That's like 150% of chances of you, if you're not a disciplined spender, chances of you as you're not a disciplined spender, there are high chances that you can go over your budget. And there are also high chances that you could spend so much in a month, especially if you have a supply of a sponsor. If you have a sponsor, you'll not even worry, because everywhere is an outlet of, whether it's like a tea shop or a restaurant where you can get some good food, or fast food like KFC, McDonald's, Starbucks, DQ, everywhere. Because Chinese layouts are like, there's a mixed use concept whereby up is like residential and below there are shops. So everywhere you're walking, it is actually shops. And so the cost of living in China could be low if you're very disciplined, but can go so high if you like everything that you see. So that is the first thing. And what is the actual cost of you like renting an apartment in China? Renting an apartment, if it's at the outskirts in the city, like in Nanjing where we live, in the outskirts of Nanjing where I live, an apartment would cost like let me just calculate for you, 1,000. An apartment in the outskirts, like in the outskirts of Nanjing, will cost you like 1,500 renminbis. That's like 5,500 renminbis, and that's gonna be like how many US dollars? Let's divide it by 6.5 to put it to US dollar. That's like 230 for an apartment that is outskirts. That can be like a 2-bedroom, main bedroom and small bedroom, and a small bedroom, like 2-bedroom apartment outskirts of Nanjing. That could cost about 230 for 1 month, but you will be required to pay up front like 3 months in advance. That means like you need 230 times 3 plus a deposit fee, like where it's like a deposit fee that is like a full amount. It's half of 1 month rent. That will be like, that's the when you are moving in an apartment, you need to pay 3 months in advance in most cases. Some people would even require you to pay the whole year in advance. Yeah. But if you're gonna live in a city center, where like I live close to a city center because I live in the hostel, so it's not really expensive for me because I'm living in the hostel, right? But if you're gonna rent an apartment close to the city center, that's gonna cost you about 4,000. Let's say that's 4,000 renminbi divided by 6.5 to change to US dollar. That's gonna cost you like 692 US dollar to rent an apartment. That could be like a 3-bedroom apartment. That's gonna be close to that. If it's not like that expensive, it's not gonna be 4,500 to rent in the CBD. Like you could even go higher if it's in the city center, right? And that's on rent. But for like hostels, like student apartment hostels, I pay like 700 for 1 room are, for a room where I am right now, 700 for 1 month, and that includes water and electricity. And 700 renminbis divided by 6.5, that's like 100 US dollar for like a hostel room. Yeah, but I think our hostel, the room where I live, it's cheaper compared to many other hostels around Nanjing. Okay, that's from renting. Let's go to transportation. Transportation, when you are moving from like one place to another, it's very convenient for you to have to live here, because there's a subway, there's a bus, there are shared bikes. So everywhere there are bicycles, and you can use that bicycle to come from one point to another, because this is a shared bikes, literally shared bikes. The public transportation is very, very on point, because everywhere it's convenient, it's accessible. Anywhere you go, you can get that. Subway, bus, shared bike, and other people have like electrical bike of their own. And there's no point for even buying a car in China if you're a foreigner, because everything is accessible. Yeah, in cases where you're like, maybe you have to commute to a very long distance place, there will be a need. But in ordinary cases, for people like me, you don't even need a car, because you can just use shared bike. Public transportation is very convenient. So to use public transportation, mostly it will cost you like 2 renminbis. 2 renminbi like this. 2 renminbi is like not even a US dollar. 2 renminbi to go to any, if you're using a bus to travel anywhere with a public bus, you just need 2 renminbi to get on, and then getting off it's obviously free. And so let's say you're gonna use a bus every single day, Monday to Friday, and you're using like Monday to Friday a bus commuting. Maybe you're commuting to work Monday to Friday, morning and afternoon. Let's say in a day you're taking by a bus twice. That's multiplied by 2. Multiply by 2, and then you multiply by 5 times 5. So literally in a week you can use 20 renminbi to take a bus to and from work, going in the morning and coming back in the afternoon. If you're going Monday to Friday, that's gonna be like 20 renminbis, and that's how many US dollars divided by 6.5. That's like 3 US dollars to commute Monday to Friday, twice, using a bus twice a day to and from. That's very, very cheap. And for the subway can be a little bit expensive, because subway is according to the distance that you are gonna take. For like a furthest distance could go even up to a 10 renminbi. For a shorter distance could be like 2 renminbis. The shortest distance on the subway is like 2 renminbi, but the furthest can be even up to 10, 15. If you're going like to the airport, you could pay about 7 renminbi. Yeah. So that's on transportation. And taxi wise, if you're gonna take a taxi, that's like, there are metered taxis, whereby when you get on the taxi it will calculate per kilometer. So when you get on the taxi, it starts calculating from about 9 renminbis, and then as you go further, the further you go, the more it can accumulate, and that can go up to even 60, 100 renminbi. So it's not convenient for you to use the taxi, especially the metered taxis, because it's expensive. But you can also use something that is called like Didi, and this Didi is like, it works more like Uber, international Uber, you know what I mean. So Chinese Uber, like one way, I mean, as in, if I'm saying Didi, it's literally like American Uber. So that can be a little bit cheaper, but the further you go, if you're going to go out of the outskirts, from the CBD to the outskirts, you would need to pay about 50 renminbis. 50 renminbis for using a taxi to go very, very out of the CBD. And that's definitely, it's expensive if you're gonna do it a lot of days. If you're gonna now use taxi like Monday to Friday, let's say Monday to Friday, 50 times 2 times 5, you could use 500 renminbi for using a taxi if you are coming from CBD to the outskirts of China. Now let's come to food. Food is, I think, food buying from restaurants is definitely expensive, because I feel like there's so much money in Chinese restaurants that, like, I feel there's so much money. But for an ordinary student, I use like 17 renminbis. I use like, let's say I'm gonna eat outside, just the ordinary food. I'm not gonna go to KFC, not McDonald's, but I'm just gonna go to an easy Chinese restaurant that like one meal will cost me 17 renminbis. Let's say I'm gonna eat 2 meals a day, times 2, Monday to Friday, times 5, it's gonna cost me like 170 for 1 week to get a meal of 17 renminbi each day. But now the trick comes in when you're buying food. If you're gonna eat this amount every day, the same food every day in 1 week, you're gonna use about 170 for food. But that means you will not have different flavors. Now another thing is, the cheap food, of course, doesn't really come with the value. I mean, the cheap food is just rice and simple little meat with simple vegetable. You know what I mean? You most likely not gonna be always eating the cheap food because you want flavor, you want variety, you want something more appetizing and exciting, right? So you are not gonna like spend 170 for 1 week. If 1 week is 170, so that means you will have to buy a meal every single day, twice a day, right? That's gonna be 170. So that's a little bit expensive. Let's say you're gonna cook every single day. You're gonna cook meals for yourself. That's gonna be a little bit, it can be cheaper for you to be like, you can spend 300 renminbis for 2 weeks. For 2 weeks, 300 renminbis, if given the fact that you get your chicken, your beef, and your vegetables, because a bag of rice, that's like 5 kg bag of rice is about 39 renminbis. 39 renminbis for a bag of rice. That's like divided by 6.5. That's like $6 for a bag of rice. That's 5 kg, and 5 kg can go for you for a whole month. So that means it's very cheap, right? So let's say you have a bag of rice that's gonna cost you 39, and then you have like vegetables, because my current month I've bought like vegetables for maybe like 80 renminbis, for let's say 80 renminbis on vegetables. That's tomatoes, onions, green pepper, ginger, garlic, and a little bit of lettuce, cabbage, carrots. Those are gonna cost you like 80 renminbis for a whole week or 2 weeks, you know. And what you need to do is cooking food that you can store up, and so that you can always bring out, warm it, and just have convenient food with you. That's gonna really be convenient for a student, you know. So the cost on groceries, I would say an ideal, if you're not gonna kill yourself, you would use about 300 renminbis for 2 weeks. That can be like 600 renminbi for 1 month on groceries. I mean groceries doesn't only talk about food, talking about only food, okay? And now that's like 600 renminbi divided by 600 renminbi divided by 6.5. Okay, 600 renminbi divided by 6.5 to US dollars. That's about 92 US dollars per month on food. Yeah, and that, if you're gonna use like 600 renminbis for food in a month, that means you're not gonna get luxuries like McDonald's, you're not gonna get luxuries like KFC's, luxuries like Starbucks and all that type of good thing, you know what I mean? Because in one meal, if I'm gonna go to a very international restaurant that is called Caesarea, it's an international restaurant that if you go there and you want to eat like the good food there, you can use about 100 renminbi to 150 renminbi to get nice meal, like including dessert and drinks and rice, chicken, or even a lamb and all that, lamb meat and something like that, you know. Because when you go out to buy food, you want to treat yourself, right? Because it's not an ordinary thing. And sometimes the cost of living can also be affected by so many things, because it can be a rush hour and you need to get somewhere. That means you will need to use a taxi. That means you need to be preparing yourself to get this money ahead of time. Otherwise, some days you would need